Fantastic. Just to prove it, right? So welcome along. We're going to be talking about getting past gatekeepers, because that in the business of sales can be the bane of our life. Someone else, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So first of all, thank you for those of you that sort of came forward with one or two. There we go. With one or two sort of issues that you regularly encounter, coming onto this kind of subject matter. Here we go. There's loads of people coming in now. Right. Okay. Here we go. So we're talking about getting past gatekeepers. Thanks to those of you that have already submitted a question, a context, or anything like that. And I'm going to go through a few points here, which I really hope will help. And a couple of personal stories. One is how to do it, and the second one is most definitely how not to do it. And we've all been there, haven't we? So I got to believe, if you've been around the sales any more than 12 months, you're going to have some battle scars. Or frankly, if you haven't, I'm going to feel hard done by, and I'll be having a word with someone. Okay, brilliant. So the way this is going, first of all, if you're watching this later on YouTube, by all means, hit subscribe and subscribe to the channel. Excuse me. So, but also for those of you here live, first of all, thank you very much for joining. This is it's not supposed to be a lecture. This is, please, let's interact, let's challenge. I've not got the monopoly on wisdom, been around a bit, but if you want to challenge, if you've got something else, then by all means, kind of yeah, please do let me know about it. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, brilliant. So in the oh, fantastic, here we go. In the chat, it will just let me know whereabouts in the world you are. That would be fantastic. Most of us are going to be in the UK, but some of us are going to be South Africa and East Coast as well. Chris, hi, welcome, and Iris as well. That will be really, really helpful. Let's just miss that. Okay, so we're talking about gatekeepers. And before we actually do that, now a number of you were on here last week and we were talking about outbound. And we've been talking about Grimsby. Welcome, Pete. Famous place. Now, didn't Rhys Evans make a movie about Grimsby? That was, I think I'm right in suggesting that. Anyway,
we're shot in Essex mainly, by the way.
Irony not being lost to me. Okay, right. So if anyone was on the call last week, there were 3 or 4 of you. Did anyone make a video? Now, the people that weren't on this call last week are all wondering what on earth's going on here. But we were trying to do something different, right? So did anyone actually make a video? Drop me a line or come off of mute and tell me what your experience was. Did you make it? Did you send it? Which is another step altogether. And what results did you get, if any? Okay, what? Yeah. Okay, I got that, John. Fantastic. Okay, right. So let's assume not. So gatekeepers. I'm just going to refer to some stuff that I've got written down on the side. Really important to understand what gatekeepers are all about. Gatekeepers are, first of all, they're just doing their job, right? And they are, it's like people who go surfing and you know, they sort of act all surprised when they get bitten by creatures in the sea. They're going into another world now. Now, we're not going to get bitten, at least physically, but we're trying to encroach upon someone else's world, and we're trying to get to a VIP of some kind, a decision maker, someone who may have some insight. It may actually not be in the client that you're trying to win. It might be in a partner, it might be in all sorts of other things. So gatekeepers can take many forms. That's what I'm trying to say. So the first thing we've got to think about is what's our mindset going on here? What is our mindset? And here I am, I'm thinking about us, and I'm thinking about the other person. It's almost certainly going to be on the phone. You probably won't be doing a video call, not first of all, and you're going to be asking to meet with the CFO, CIO, whatever it happens to be, key decision makers for your lines of business. And your goal, focus on the objective, is to get a meeting with that decision maker. Now, what do you think you're going to need? Well, first of all, what do you think the instant answer is going to be?
No. They're busy.
Yeah, they're not available.
That's their job. Now, typically, what do we do when we encounter that?
Is there another time when it's more convenient?
Yeah, yeah. And I am guessing, if you're lucky, there will be, yes, if you phone at 3:05, or you know, if you're lucky, that might be the response you get. I guarantee you won't get a response if you don't ask the question. So the mindset we've got to have, I think, is first of all, act as if. Act as if. And what that means is that, excuse me, you're entitled to make the call. You're at the same level as the decision maker that you're trying to get in contact with. So, and you've got something that is of value and a message that is of value to the decision maker. Now, that assumes a number of other things. First of all, you've done a bit of research. You have some reason to believe that now I know this is incredibly basic, and the reason I'm going through the basics is because you would not believe, we sort of talked about this on Thursday, those of you that were with me at the chamber, with the people that have their hands up all the time, you would not believe the people that aren't prepared or haven't got a pithy 30-second, 15-second form of words when you're asked what is it you want to talk to them about. And you're going to have a response for that. In order to have a response, you're going to have done your homework, and you're going to have to believe and have some evidence to believe that they could benefit from your solution. So if you're running a fleet management company, you're going to need to know certain things, like that whatever they're doing is more expensive than your solution. Remember, there's only two kinds of benefits: sell more stuff, reduce costs. And if you're smart about how you do things, you'll affect both benefit lines. So you've got to have a point of view that act as if you're entitled to be there. You have, not just you, but your company that backs you up, have the wherewithal, the appetite, the goodies, if you like, to help this company that you're approaching improve its P&L, profitability, selling more stuff. You've got to believe that, and you're going to have done some research to get to that point. Okay, so assuming you've done all that, massive assumption, but let's assume it for the purpose of this call, and then you're up against the gatekeeper. Now, you can either drop this in or come off of mute. Tell me about who is the gatekeeper likely to be for you in your world. What role have they got?
Normally a PA or an executive assistant for me personally.
Yeah.
I just even labeling the gatekeeper is almost it's almost anti what I'm trying to achieve. I like to think they're my friend or my helper as opposed to my gatekeeper.
That's a really good point. I use gatekeeper because it's kind of recognized. I hate because it's kind of recognized. Most people will understand what you mean by gatekeeper, but right there, well pointed out, Chris, is a mindset in itself. So they are only doing their job, and their job actually, just like our job, for the most part, is to to qualify out unless we get some compelling evidence to qualify in. Their job is to say no. Their job is to bounce you elsewhere, and protect their boss's time, because that's who they report to. They do not report to you. And so you have to put yourself in their shoes, as the old saying goes, walk in the other person's shoes. So there is a surefire way of not getting cooperation, and that is to attempt to bully, strong arm, force your way through. That's not going to work. Have you heard the phrase, you'll get more with honey than you will with vinegar? In fact, I think the full phrase is you'll get more with a drop of honey than you will with a gallon of vinegar. So we've got to charm them. That's part of our sales skill set, is we have people skills. Although I have to say that is a massive assumption sometimes too. But you're supposed to have people skills, okay? And you're supposed to be able to get friendly with people. Sounds like we're talking about MI6, but you're supposed to be able to, and in some respects it is, but you're supposed to get friendly with people with all those interpersonal communication skills that we use for people to feel good about, feel positive about engaging with us. So now most of the time, I'm going to keep calling it a gatekeeper. I know it's a mindset thing, but it'll do for the purposes of this conversation. That gatekeeper is normally, as Chris pointed out, an EA, executive assistant, or a personal assistant. But it can often be, so if you want to meet the CIO, it can often be the CIO -1. Or in Iris's case, where we're doing relocations, it could be the head of real estate or corporate services or something like that. So it could be a direct report of theirs that's not an EA, that is quite a senior person in their own right, and you're trying to get through to the CIO, in which case you're going to have to try and bring them with you on that journey. Now, one of the things that might be going through their mind, let's take the EA aside for a minute, and let's talk about the person that you're sort of working with, and you may have met them several times already. So it may not be on the phone, it might be in person. So you want to go to meet with the CIO, I'm going to say CIO, but the C-suite, let's call it the C-suite for this perspective. What might they be afraid of in you wanting to go and see their boss? Any idea what might be going through your mind or their mind?
Well, I don't know whether this class is as fear, Keith, but I guess they don't want their boss to say, why are you putting these calls through to me? This isn't someone I want to speak to, or why haven't you, why are you sending this call through to me?
Okay, so it's about trust, right? You're not going to embarrass me in front of my boss. It's about trust. Now, assuming, again, another assumption, but a reasonable one, assuming you've done a good job, they will understand that you probably want to meet with the executive decision maker at some stage. And so you'll ask for them to come with you to that meeting. So you're befriending them, you're bringing them with you on that journey. If it's a meeting, that's fine, or a conference call or a Zoom. So they're coming along, and you will also get an implied sponsorship from doing that. So bring them with you on that journey with the assumption that your messages are the right messages that they need to hear, and all of those things. But right now we're just trying to get through the gatekeeper. Okay, so make them your friend, Be humble and authentic. There's no strong arming that's going on. Honey and vinegar, all of those things, and do your research to make sure you've got that compelling message, and act as if, excuse me, who you get to talk with God, you have to agree with the saints. Yeah, absolutely. Nice one, Natalia. Thank you. So work with the saints. Okay, so we're going to have to, that's a really good point and well stated, by the way. So you've got to take them with you on the journey. You're only going to get there if you've built trust, if you're working together. And by the way, if you're thinking this takes a lot of time and effort, you're absolutely right. It does. It takes a lot of time and effort and expertise. But to have someone with you on that journey on the inside, what I would call a champion or a sponsor, is incredibly helpful. And just be aware that that's really what we're trying to do, bring people with us on the journey. That's why sales is a well-paid profession. Okay, what's next? By the way, if there's just no way that you can get through with this person's cooperation, and there are plenty of times when maybe you haven't been able to build trust, there just hasn't been a context available for you to do that. There are a number of other ways that you might be able to get a message to the person that you're looking to get a message to. Now, we have referenced this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Would anyone like to, because we've got some new people today, which is fantastic, would anyone like to suggest what those alternative methods might be? Okay, right. So the alternative methods might be, if you can't get that person to do the work for you and make that introduction, you're going to have to get into research mode. Now, research mode, for the most part, is going to be LinkedIn. The world at the end of your fingertips, 6 degrees of separation and all of that. So using LinkedIn, you can go to almost anyone's profile that's got one, and there's plenty of really, from chief execs downwards, most people of any repute are on LinkedIn. That is not to say that they all use it in their daily work, but most people are on there. If you're really, really senior, like the CFO of Standard Chartered Bank, a guy called Andy Halford, your LinkedIn will be run by your exec assistant, as Pete mentioned, or Chris mentioned earlier on. They're going to have an entire office that runs their communications sort of for them. I know a guy called Alan Jope, who's the CEO of Unilever, does quite a lot on LinkedIn, but he's not obviously there. Well, he might be there bashing the buttons sometimes, but for the most part, he's got an office that's doing all this for him. So using your LinkedIn research, you should be able to see, and let's say, don't let me catch you, but how do you get them to respond to your invite to speak? Wow, that's where the skills come, and from Iris, and that's about having a message that you know is going to resonate, that they need, and the timing in sales. The timing can be everything. We mentioned last week, Richard III. The day before the Battle of Bosworth, he would not have given his kingdom for a horse. On the day itself, when he ended up in big trouble in the enemy's part of the turf, he would absolutely have given his kingdom for a horse. In fact, that's the offer he made. And so timing is all is part of the context. So use your LinkedIn research. Who do you want to connect with? Who are they connected to? So you might be surprised if you work in a company with more than 3 people in, you've got their networks as well. So you're an employee of that company, and if you would not believe who the people you work with are connected to. Now, you may not be formally connected on LinkedIn, but it's worth asking. So if you're working with others and you really want to reach a person, and use it advisedly. You don't want to be the person that's always asking for favors in your company, but discreetly you can ask your line manager, your CEO, does anyone know this person or know someone that knows them? And you can use that person's relationship as an introducer, if you like. Now, I do this with a number of companies because I've been around the block. So you've met a few people. So I often get asked to introduce companies. And we just did some work with, I had a couple of calls with BT just recently. This is all stuff that's at your fingertips. You've just got to have the imagination and creativity to sort of get it done. So using your LinkedIn, who is it you're connected to? So, for instance, at one particular company that I'm working with, they want to get into NatWest, which is a big bank I did business with donkeys years ago. But it's one of those institutions where people work there for donkey's years as well. So a lot of them are still there. So wouldn't you believe it? Looking on LinkedIn, where are people at, which is fascination itself. You can, just by being a bit curious, figure out lots and lots of things and lots of ways to get around that gatekeeper without causing alarm, distress, all those other, negative feelings that you might come across. How do you get a message to that person? I think, Iris, that was your question. How do you get a message to that person? Okay, so if you are not directly connected to that person, you can work out who is connected with them that you have a good relationship with. What I might do is go on LinkedIn here as well. That might be helpful. Let's go here and let us work out. In fact, I'm going to put you on shared screen now, if that is okay. Let's go there. Right, so you should be able to go to, let's go to, right, hopefully that comes up on your screen just now. You've got LinkedIn there. Let's get rid of a few of these. Right. It's been a busy old morning. Okay, right. So if we go to Alan, CEO at Unilever. Okay, so this is, for instance, not recommending you do this, but just by way of an example, let's go and have a look at Alan's full profile. He's a public figure, so nothing's going to happen here. Okay, brilliant. So we've got two mutual connections. So I could choose to click on those. Yeah, okay. That's probably, if I'm not going to do this, but just by way of example, I would go to Abdul in this case. And if I know Abdul really well, I'm just going to phone up, say, Abdul, I've got this, trust me on this. Can you help me with an introduction to Alan, say good things about me? I will tell you, because this is real life, most people will not do that. To go to someone like Alan Jope at Unilever, that's a really, really big ask. These are the cold hard facts. So I use this example just by way of illustration because I happen to know what was going to happen when I click on that link. But in the cold light of day, I would be amazed if Abdul would do that. Not because Abdul's not a good guy, but that is a really big ask of anyone. And so you need to know, so maybe there's an introducer type arrangement there. So Abdul has some incentive to go on that journey with you. But that would be an example of getting what we call a third party introduction. So somebody who knows you, that trusts you, that where that bridge of trust already exists, who is also connected. And so you're using their reputation with Alan Jope at Unilever. And if that's a good reputation, there's a good chance of making that happen. And everyone's got to trust each other to do the right thing. But we're in the trust business. So if you can't get people to trust you, then we're going to have another conversation about that. So that's what I would do. Now let's come off of there just for the minute, back with you. How do you get a message? So you can get that introducer, will you have a message? Or if Abdul won't, let's just presume in this case he won't. What we could do is we could pre-record, and we have to be connected. So we can connect with Alan. Again, let's assume it's someone else that was more likely to connect with. Whoever it is we want to connect with, we would need to connect with, and you would, and I've got a number of examples, LinkedIn connection requests if you want those afterwards. Excuse me. So you would connect with them. If they've connected, you can only do this with first line connections. I would record a video. And the reason I record a video is because these people get connection requests all the time. If you just send a written connection, a written LinkedIn message, 50% of everyone else is going to be doing exactly the same thing. So I would get comfortable, and that's a hurdle that we all have to get over at some stage. Get comfortable with making a 30-second, and that's all it should be, 30-second video. And we talked about this last week, about 8 seconds or 5 seconds for your I'm Keith, I'm at Sales Marvel. Get that out the way. That's your marker. We talked about markers last Thursday, to get people ready to receive information. And then it's your high gain information, your high value information. I believe we can help Unilever by making Ben & Jerry ice cream even better than it already is. How about that? I don't think that's possible, by the way, but but that might be a message that we want to give the boss of Unilever. You would also have to believe, by the way, that Ben & Jerry are susceptible to messages from the CEO of Unilever. And this is where you've got to be on top of your brief, they're not. And I use it as an example for exactly that reason. You've got to know that what you're asking is in the gift of all the people that you're asking. So don't ask for the impossible, especially if you don't know them. Ask for something that's easily given, like a 15-minute phone call, whatever it happens to be. So we're asking for a 15-minute call with Alan at Unilever because we believe we can run his fleet cheaper, whatever happens to be. And Alan will, someone at that level, he will almost certainly bounce you or refer you in the proper vernacular, refer you to someone else who does look after that fleet on a more day-to-day basis. And therefore you've got the introduction. You can say, fine, do you mind if we mention that we've had this question? Yes, that's fine. Then you've got permission and you've got through the gatekeeper. In fact, you've got around the gatekeeper and you're in with David Silito or whoever it happens to be over at Unilever. Yep, okay. Nice to see you again, Iris. So, and see you again next week. So, we make a friend of the gatekeeper, we get them on side, and we get them batting our cause. You cannot and you should not ride roughshod over the gatekeeper. That can come back to bite you. It's just not a good thing to do, and you'll get sales an even worse rep than it's already got. So we won't do that. We can get round the gatekeeper. Let's assume that we've got the assistant or whomever it is on our side. What else? We need to be a bit careful about just asking for favors all the time. So how do you think we might be able to keep that that gatekeeper on side, if you like. What can we do? Anyone?
Just be honest. Yeah, just be honest. I mean, I did put a message. I sent somebody some cupcakes last week, which was quite different. I saw that a previous consultant had sent them some cupcakes to say good luck with your implementation. So we sent them some cupcakes the week after to say, hoping if your implementation went well, by the way, we're your next service. And that allowed me to go straight to the head of services to talk about that. But for the gatekeeper, I would just say something like, hey, Keith, listen, I'm a professional salesperson. You're standing between me and Bob. Tell me, what's the best way for me to be able to engage with Bob? I promise you, Keith, it's going to be something that you'll be proud of making happen. I would just say something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I may also, yeah, really good point, Chris. May also refer to someone else we've done of equal stature in terms of a case study. Let's say Unilever, we've done something else with Procter & Gamble. So you can be sure that it's relevant, it's scalable, all of those questions that they're undoubtedly going to ask themselves, so that we have, you know, direct experience in this particular area, and it helps that person feel more comfortable about going with that message. So that's a really good shout. Thank you for that. And on the front of, so we talked about honey and vinegar. Let me tell you about a couple of case studies, if I can, for where this has worked. And the first one was, now I don't particularly like this phrase, but it serves a purpose for this call, but friends in low places. Often the EA or the PA is often the most powerful person when that line manager is out of the office, when the CIO or the fleet manager or whoever it is out of the office. Their assistant is often the most powerful person, and that's why it's really important to have a positive relationship with them, that they see you as a force for good and that you're going to, you know, do good things for their firm. So you can do Chris's example on the cupcakes thing. We're in the days of veganism and all lots of other things, so be a little bit careful, bear that in mind, but do your research at the same time. Just going in, if it's a sort of service you provide where you're in the office quite a lot, just go in with a cup of coffee or whatever their favorite brew is, and just, you know, kindness. We're in a world now, this is incredibly simple, but it's effective. Just be kind, and a friendly exchange of words, and just recognize that they exist. It should be obvious, but so many people don't do it. So you're effectively going to become an extension of that person's team. You are on their side. You're developing, you're almost an unpaid consultant for their team. The way you get paid is by them buying more stuff for you. But just to I've often taken assistants out for, again, you have to be careful how you do this, but I've often taken them out for lunch, and we're not talked about business at all. We talked about families and all the rest of it. And I took one person out. So anyway, getting back to the story, Leanne, because that was her name, was working for a big investment bank, and she was the assistant of the head of networks for the investment bank. I took her out, we had some lunch, all the rest of it, and this was going on for a couple of years, and I was doing lots of business with that particular firm. But one time, excuse me, Martin, who was the head of networks, and I got a call from Martin saying, why is Leanne doing some presentations for you? Because I had, that's my cautionary tale. Leanne had become, I had become internal. I was doing some work for them on a bid with another bank, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America now, and Leanne was doing some work for me. So I had overstepped the mark. Martin is still a good mate of mine. He found it funny And the way that that manifested itself is that he asked Leanne if, not their real names, by the way, he asked Leanne, can you do all this for me? And she said, I'm really sorry, but I'm doing this for Keith. And that's how it all came about. So that can happen. Just understand where you can go with that and where you shouldn't go with that. The other case study is also a kind of cautionary tale. In fact, is only a cautionary tale. Is what happens if you go behind someone's back. So they may not be an assistant. Perhaps you've had a decision go against you. The head of networks, let's say, has decided to buy someone else's hardware and services. And you put a call in, you aim high, and you go through to the boss and you put your pitch to them. Had that any idea what might happen then if you do that? Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. Let's just say that did not go any further. But again, that was one of those rites of passage that salespeople have to have. You have to experience that firsthand. What would I have done differently? I at the very least, I would have said, David, not their real name, I'm really disappointed to hear that. I really feel that you should be going my way because of these reasons, and I don't quite understand why you're not. Can you please allow me to put my case to Chris, the head of networks, or whoever it might be? Now, if you don't ask, you're never going to get that meeting. You might just get that meeting, but it never hurts to ask. But to go behind someone's back, and now even I say this out loud, it seems bleeding obvious that that's what's going to happen. But when you're 27 years old or whatever it happens to be, sometimes you're just finding out experiences for yourself. So so that's the cautionary tale. Don't ever do that. It's only going to end in a world of pain. You've got to make a friend of the person and get them acting on your behalf. Get them not representing you, but get them working on your behalf because they feel they're doing the right thing for their firm. Okay, if you can get, one last thing is, if you can get an org chart. Now, you almost certainly won't get email addresses because of GDPR, but sometimes when you're working with an EA and they're not going to put you through because of whatever else it is, you could also, I've just thought this, I haven't written it down, but you could ask, is there an org chart that I can kind of work with? Now, sometimes you will get that. You definitely won't get it by not asking, but you could ask for an org chart so that you can work out who you next need to speak to. And if they won't give you the org chart, you can say, okay, in your experience, this is what I'm trying to deliver and the benefit I'm trying to bring about. Who could you direct me to somewhere? Again, you may get a lead, or do your research. There's enough on LinkedIn now. Most people are on LinkedIn. You should be able to work out and ask specifically for whatever person it happens to be. Right. Yeah, okay, right. I'm just going to go back on the shared screen if I can, just for a minute while we're winding up. And I think we're there. Right. Okay, so just before we get to takeaways, excuse me, just before we get to takeaways, I have a masterclass that's starting. This is over and above what I do with the West Midlands, with the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce. That's starting on September the 20th, and I'm asking you now, guys, in the collective sense of the word, I'm looking probably for some early career salespeople or people that are just embarking on their sales journey to take them through a seven stage sales process. The ideal thing is if they come along and they've got a big account that they really, really want to win, or they've got a new product to launch, or perhaps they're so used to selling into financial services and they want to diversify into legal services or whatever it happens to be. Mine starts on the 20th of September. I'm after 5 more with a number of sign-ups that are coming onto this already, but I'm after 5 more, and I've got an introductory video that can take you through that. So that's my ask. If you know anyone in your firm or you're connected with the LinkedIn that might be suitable for, I'd be really grateful for a direct message or some sort of coaching or guidance for who would like to start that. Thank you. Right, what's next? The 4 takeaways. I've done that. Right, so takeaways, which is about on time as well. So gatekeepers come in many forms. That's coming up there. They come in many forms. They may not be an exec assistant or a personal assistant or anything like that. And they are just doing their job, which is to protect their boss's time. We need to understand and respect that. So definitely don't make an enemy of them. You won't get anywhere, and they'll go out of their way to make sure you don't get anywhere. And why wouldn't they? So do your research, make sure you've got a compelling message, at least do them the courtesy of getting to that stage. Never lie or deceive. One other thing, and someone else mentioned this last week, around sending an email that's private and confidential, and I can't remember who that was, but private and confidential. Most managers will talk to their assistants and say, you can answer all my email or you can open all my email apart from anything that's marked private and confidential. And so some disingenuous salespeople, or scurrilous might say, will mark their email private and confidential, knowing that the assistant isn't allowed to open those and that the manager will. Well, if you're starting a relationship off on a lie, there is 0 chance that that is going to work, and that in the modern day that may have other repercussions, like them getting in touch with your boss and complaining about salespeople's behavior. That will always come back to bite you in the backside, and quite rightly so. Focus on the goal that you're trying to achieve. You're not trying to get the exec assistant to buy your stuff. You're trying to get their boss to meet with you to work out whether it's worth buying your stuff. So that is the goal. Focus on the goal and be different and find alternatives. There's no strong arming. We can send a LinkedIn video if you like, or even a voice recording if you're really not comfortable being on video, but just do something different. And find alternatives, but be humble. Authenticity, I believe, is the order of the day. But at all times, act as if you're entitled to, thanks, Chris, act as if you're entitled to have that conversation. And if you are sort of doubting your confidence, as I did for years and years, to be absolutely honest, if you're doubting your confidence in some way, you've got to speak to someone who's going to get you over that hurdle. It's vital that you feel like you are a peer of whomever you're going to meet, that you have every right to go and meet that person. So that's a mindset that you need to have. Now, one last favor, getting to next week. I want to talk about something next week. I've got an idea in mind, but if there's something that's bugging you that you want to know the answer to, then please either drop me a quick line in chat or follow up with a DM if we're connected already. If there's something that's pressing a sales related issue, and I will put something together for next week. So if in case you're wondering why does he do this, it's helpful for me to know what everyone else is kind of going through as well, and I can create content. So it's a partnership that we're sort of building over time. Excuse me. So I hope that's kind of helpful. I hope we're connected on LinkedIn. I believe we are with certainly, well, one we're not. So let's do something about that. But until next week, If you want a link to this recording, I'm more than happy to send you that when Zoom does its thing. But until next week, we'll see you at 1:15 next Tuesday for a yet to be determined subject matter, but I look forward to it. Thanks very much for all your input, everyone.
Thank you, Keith.
Very welcome. Hope that was helpful.
Absolutely.
Keith.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Take care. Bye now.